My name is Michael Murphy. My business is Barefoot Builders. I proposed to Jake a couple months ago that somebody talk about kind of some of the spiritual aspects, the natural aspects of building in trees, with trees, around trees, with people who love trees, and also treehouse building as a revolutionary act. When we look at real social revolution and action and making real change in our lives, because no matter how good life is, we can imagine a better one. So we got into the revolution real quick, but I started building tree houses, not counting kids stuff, professionally about 9 years ago. I built one a year as a teacher, working at a school, and my clients, I was doing a lot of tree work, tree removal, milling up wood, stockpiling wood, for buildings that I fantasized about all night long. I couldn't sleep at night. The last year that I was a teacher, I couldn't sleep at night. And I did not know why I couldn't sleep, and I wanted to build so bad, and yet I didn't have any budget to build on the land that I bought, which will be part of this talk too. And also, I was just amassing wood from all these trees I was taking down, because I believe in using every part of the buffalo, using the branches of the wood, using the leaves of the wood, getting mulch, getting treehouse railings that I didn't know how many I'd be building. When people ask me why I don't wear shoes, I used to joke and say, well, do you want the 2-minute or do you want the master's thesis? Whatever you're doing, you should be doing it fully. There's no reason to do things halfway. If you're doing things halfway, your heart's not in it. And you can maybe find another place to be and another thing to be doing. And it's okay to be finding where your heart and your mind are. There's plenty of spaces like that. And the space in between, as we all know, the journey itself has as much education, as much value as the destination ever will. So the space between is fine. There's no getting down on where you're at any given time. But when you find something that you feel like you are getting to expose your whole self, bare your soul, lay your heart out on the table, you can't deny your connection to the earth when you take your shoes off. But Mother Nature either recognizes you as, oh, one of those 932 million people who wears Nikes, or is like, oh, I know you. I remember you. We used to climb trees back outside of Seattle a long time ago. It's like you're cutting off your identification from Mother Earth. And then you're also able to pretend that you're not walking across oil slicks all over the Safeway parking lot, and that you're not attached to the broken glass outside of the frat houses around UW. So you become more intimately connected. It's like if I shook your hand and if I put a glove on before I did, how would you feel? Yeah, a little weird. I help to midwife a space that already exists. These trees know that the space between them is a space of love. They know that when they put their branches out, they're creating a canopy that protects the earth below them, that feeds the earth below them, that lifts up the earth to the sky, brings the nutrients up, takes water out of the sky, puts water back into the sky. These trees don't need to be told that they're special or that they're sacred. But a lot of folks think that, if I could cut that tree down, I could get a better view of the lake and what have you. We should really take that maple out, right? Because, it just loads the gutter, and it's probably rotting the deck too. And you don't want to have to do all that maintenance to keep the leaves off. So there's that aspect of trees, that they're a lot of work or that they're high maintenance. They're only high maintenance because you put a high maintenance house there. The space between these trees is sacred. So remove the ego from the situation. Ask the trees, what does your sacred space look like in a way that I can show it to these people so that they recognize how magical the land is that they get to be stewards of for the time that they take care of it. And that these people are already married to their land by contract. And now I'm trying to marry them to their land by spirit. And so the physical manifestation of the ring that reminds them that this is a continuous and hopefully harmonious experience is the treehouse. And so I help create this space in such a way that it totally changes their relationship to it, and it becomes an emotional and spiritual investment as much as a financial one. There's a path, the path that you're on leads you to where you are. And recognizing that where you are is where you were going a couple weeks ago. Instead of thinking, oh man, when I get to that place, things will be good. But like 3 weeks ago, I was going to this place and it's where I am now. And so instead of thinking where I'm going, I'm going to focus on being here. So with tree houses, it's undeniable. You're walking up, your foundation is a living, breathing thing. If you neglect that, it will die and your house will fall down. One time a friend of mine and I were working in the front yard on Mercer Island, a little town outside of Seattle on Lake Washington. We were working in the front yard and he was like, is this what the soil's like here on Mercer Island? And it was this like lifeless, sandy dirt. As Scott will tell you, soil is living, dirt is not. But I almost cried and I was like, no buddy, this is what is left after somebody comes and wipes off all the living soil in a space. So we're shipping away the living nutrients. And it's just like we're creating this lifeless home space. Rather than digging our hands deep into the dirt and asking the dirt, what sorts of things do you like here? What sorts of things do you produce here? Who grows here? Introduce me to my new friends now that I'm in this place. Teach me about Oregon grape. Teach me about when to pick the Oregon grape leaves so that they taste sweet. And when do they taste bitter? And when can I eat their purple berries and have a sour bomb experience in my mouth and give them to the neighbor kids and have everybody get excited and throw them at each other and put stains like we're having a paintball fight with Oregon grape berries on our shirts. So asking the earth to introduce you to the space that you're in rather than wiping everything off and sending it away. With tree houses, it's like, oh my God, we have a very living foundation. We got to look at how can I say, tree, hey tree, we're going to slaughter some of your children, nail them to your body, and then, charge people for it, come up and live up there and act all happy. So, but I got to talk to the tree and say, hey, this is real. How can I pierce your flesh? How can I hang heavy weights from you? And ask you to carry this load, carry this burden. How can I do that? And what's the most friendly way that I can do that? If somebody's entrusting you with money, and we don't want to think of it as money, think of it as their investment. This is something that they've worked for. They've worked for this tree house. It's not like they're just getting a tree house that you're working hard for. They worked hard to produce this space in order for you to get to come and get to build the tree house and fulfill your dreams. Because a lot of times they're like, I want this, I want that, I want that. And they don't exactly know. That's part of what your job is as the negotiator between them and the trees and their budget, and finding the place where the trees and the budget and the dreams all come together. And I like to use wood because it is wood, the trees are wood, and trees are living after they're dead. We already know that from the talks that we've heard. I want to propose that they're more alive than we could ever imagine and that they store life for a really long time. This tree grows up. It's like a kid who goes on a long journey away from their mother in one sense and comes back in their old age is like, Mom, I loved you so much all along. I went on a lot of journeys where I felt really far away from you, but really you were right there with me all along. Your heart was beating inside my heart. And then when that tree falls over and gets to lay back down in the arms of the mother, and then she takes the tree in again, and then all the new life comes from that. All the nutrients, everything that went into this journey 180 feet up comes right back into the ground. That energy is stored for a long time. There's no recognition of death. The tree is dead, and the tree is just consumed and put back into the world. I-5, I-90, you got two highways going two different directions, massive amounts of land in the middle. Grow trees there. Let's have that be our forests, our working gardens. That's creating habitat instead of taking down other habitat. And then we get to build a house, and then the children that go in and out of that house become the phloem and the xylem, the living pulse of the house. Their heartbeats become the pulse of the wood. And so that wood is still having life pumping in and out of it. And that can happen for 200 years. And then we can take it apart and we can build a barn, and that can happen for 200 more years. And then 400 years after that tree fell down and it goes back into the earth, and the mother says, there you are. I got to see you from a long distance, and now I get to hold you again and then make a new family again. And so the tree is alive. So the wood isn't dead material. It isn't toxic material. So when we take that wood and we take the tree and turn it into wood, and we continue to have an experience of life with it, and that life is stored so that the life can just continue going on and on and on and on. For me, there's a lot of revolution going on. The revolution of the earth revolving around the sun, and how that dance with the moon broke down the rock and created life on earth. The fact that that dance between those three beings gives us all that we have. And the revolution of meeting people. And one of our clients said to a friend that I had brought out, they're not construction workers at all. they're all like family, which is why we don't have friends and family discount, because we don't recognize clients very well. It's a very blurred experience because it's all friends and family. We're going in and we're meeting people. We're not here to do a job and collect a paycheck and go home. Honestly, I hope that everybody gets to do a whole lot more than that as a builder. I'm hopefully building a treehouse that reflects how they feel inside about the beauty of the space that they're in and how they connect with the world around them. Part of the revolution is a revolution of self and recognizing how to settle down my ideas of what is right and hear what other people's ideas are. Nobody wants to give you a permit for a treehouse because nobody wants to be liable for this massive thing up in a tree that everybody wants to go be in. You know, it's like you can't leave certain things out because all the kids are going to climb on it and somebody's going to get hurt because you know it's a kid magnet. If it's a kid magnet, it is probably a great thing. I was told that you can't climb a mountain without boots on. My mom almost cried when I was like, no, I'm climbing this mountain in Tevas. She couldn't handle it. And then I realized the first time I climbed a mountain in Tevas, I think, was the last time I climbed a mountain in Tevas because I realized I didn't need the Tevas. So then I started climbing mountains barefoot. I was told you can't climb a mountain in barefoot. Then I was told you can't climb a snow-covered mountain in bare feet. And I was told you can't go on hikes on ice-covered trails in bare feet. And the first time I climbed a snow-covered mountain was Mount Si, which is 8 miles round trip, and it was all snow. And I thought, okay, well, what the hell? This is my big backyard. That's where I went to high school. I'm going to give it a shot. I'll walk 100 yards, and if it doesn't work, I'll go back to the car, turn the heater on. I walked 100 yards. I'm like, this is a challenge. I was feeling some real angry pain in my feet. So I walked another 100 yards, and then I said, I think I'm going to have to reverse the flow of heat in my body so that it's not just leaving through my head. So I'm going to put the heat down there. And so I tried it. And then 3.5 miles later, I was at the top of the mountain holding my feet to make my hands warm because my fingers had gotten really cold and my feet were hot. And now I don't like to wear shoes because my feet are kind of hot all the time. So we've been told that you can't do things, and they're just not true. And that doesn't mean, one of my #1 rules is listen to the indigenous people of the space. Also, listen to the people with gray hair. Listen to your elders, the silverbacks, and abide by their wisdom, but also be careful of the stories that you're told that limit the expression of who you are on this planet and where you can see healing and connecting happening. Don't let anything stop you from being a proponent for healing and connecting. I think it's good to challenge your flesh to see how fast it can heal from things and to keep the healing processes vigorous by regular slices and scars. I don't know. Part of what I say about bearing my soul, as a lot of people know, if you're friends with me on Facebook or Instagram or have worked with me, we bring our waffle iron on most job sites. And on Wednesdays, we make waffles for the family. And when I say waffles, I mean Nutella, almond, peanut butter, chocolate drizzle waffles. So we melt dark chocolate and almond butter and maple syrup on the stove and heat it up, and then we put blueberries and almonds into the waffle mix. And so we try to inspire the people to recognize that your yard, if looked at closely, is as beautiful as Yosemite National Park. And that your home, when I come into your house, I make sure that my feet are unshod because I recognize that I'm standing on sacred ground, the ground where your family is being raised. I recognize that every house is a church and that every park is a cathedral. And so I hope that by entering into somebody's life and by talking them through the process of building a tree house, that they can understand how important it is to me that we honor the trees and that we build something that brings them closer to the experience of living and breathing with the land that they're on. I think everybody deserves a treehouse, and it breaks my heart. We got to build such a phenomenal treehouse in Oregon last December for a family with 8 kids. He called 3 treehouse builders before me, and nobody would come out for somebody who was wanting to start with a $10,000 to $12,000 budget. And we're like 4.5 hours away, and I was like, are you kidding me? You need a treehouse. You have 8 kids? You know, you got to entertain all 8 of those kids so that way you can ever do something without them. And you want a treehouse, you're willing to spend $10,000, that's a lot of money. It's very rare that I have $10,000 in my bank account, especially rare to have it in my bank account for more than 48 hours. How come we can't build a treehouse for somebody with $10,000 bucks? So We have the immediate gratification package, which starts at $1,200, and I mean I'm willing to do things cheaper than that. And sometimes I work for free, and I just tell them, this is my address. If you ever want to make a donation to the work that I do, you can just send me a check. There is a space. I want to inspire somebody to want to make magical things happen for kids all the time, and we get to do it all the time. I don't know. Some months we build 3 or 4 tree houses for less than $5,000, and you know, we compromise. I'll say, hey, yeah, I could do something for $1,500, but I'm taking a deck apart in Bellevue, and I'm going to use this 25-year-old wood to do most of your house. Is that cool? It's painted on one side. You're going to deal with that. I'm not going to paint it, I'm not going to stain it, I'm not going to sand it. You know, that kind of thing. And so we make tree houses happen. And I told them, hey, you're not far from the beach. Bring a whole bunch of driftwood, and we're going to make that into your railings. People feed you when you start working like that. So my expenses go down because we get meals for days from our clients. To the point where we try to give it away and we try to reject as much food as we can. But too many cookies. We're all going to have diabetes. I don't drink and I don't eat meat, so when everybody's like, I want to give you this salmon, this beer, and they're like, well, what will you take? And I say cookies because I can't help it. It's the first thing out of my mouth.